Hi everybody, my name is Jan Dufour. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm coming to you from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. If you are looking at this on my blog, stampmesilly.com, then you'll have all of the cutting instructions, etc., the products listed. If you're looking at this on YouTube, there should be a link below that takes you to stampmesilly.com, and then you will have all of the information that you need there. If you need to reach out to me, my email address is jandufour@yahoo.com. If there's anything here that you'd like to order and you don't have a demonstrator, you can go to my online store at jandufour.stampinup.net. That's also all linked on my blog post. I'm using two stamp sets today. This is the featured one in the moment. I'm going to be using this lady right here. I have used this lady in a past video under Blog Hop for Oceans and Seas. So if you want to see another version, you can go ahead. That one's even simpler than this one. I did add this sentiment from Beauty of Friendship because my theme is friendship, and I really wanted to put friendships refresh the soul. And I kind of felt like this image kind of went with that too. Also, obviously, you don't need to do that. There are three different sentiments that you can use. We are starting with Very Vanilla Thick. It is a 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2 for the base. I'll put that here. Then we're using a layer of crumb cake, which is 4 by 5 1/4. Then we're going to use our inner space, and this is just Very Vanilla, the plain, not the thick. And this one I made it a little bit bigger than my usual second layer because if you'll notice here, it's a very thin border, and that's what I wanted. So this measurement is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then you'll need a scrap of vanilla for the punch. So we're going to start by using Memento Tuxedo Black. You can use that for watercoloring and for doing alcohol markers, which is what we're going to be using. So go ahead and punch, stamp her down here in the corner. And there you have it. We're going to take this out. We're going to use the Stamparatus again. I'm going to do it now since we're stamping. I'm just going to flip this around. Yes, I know it's dirty on the other side, but we'll just have to be a little bit careful. So what I wanted to show you, it's a technique or a tip, different ways that you can do things. You can literally not worry where I put this. I'm just going to lay it down. It's crooked. It's not in the right spot. I'm not going to be able to see it because it's behind this lady. Trying to do all the bad things you can possibly think of. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to go ahead and clean the lady because my fingers are going to be all over her. And I'm going to get dirty. Now that I've actually done her, I'm going to go ahead and take her off. That'll make life simpler for us all. All right, so as you can see, I just popped that on there. It is not in any particular appropriate lining. I'm going to use my Soft Succulent. I am going to just one-time stamp. And this is actually, because this is a cling stamp. It's not a cling. It's a photopolymer stamp, unlike the cling stamp. It doesn't stamp very well without the foam pad, which I had taken out because the girl is a cling and doesn't need that. Okay, so the point is there you have it. It's there. Why am I doing this? Well, I want to be able to stamp it on this. And yes, I could stamp it and then punch it out, and that works very well. It wastes a little bit more paper, not that that's an issue. The biggest thing for me is I do multiples. And so for me, it makes more sense to go ahead and punch out a bunch of these and then place it here. And I did it purposefully wonky so that I could show you that what I'm doing is I'm making sure, without my head in the picture too badly, that it fits in here. Then I'm gonna lock it down And I'm going to go ahead and take one that I've already punched out and put it in here. And just make it fit in the template. And then when I stamp it, it's going to be in the right spot. And of course, you know, obviously you want it dark enough. It's dark enough. I don't need to repeat it. But then I can just pop it out, lay it aside, and do another one very quickly. And it is much faster than trying to line them up each time that you put, you know, ink to the paper and trying to get it lined up with the punch afterwards. This is just faster. And like I said, you can do multiples, you can do it twice if it needs to be, if it's not dark enough the first time, which sometimes sentiments can be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to just do one more to show you, to prove to you that, that this is really fast. All right, so now I'm just going to put these all aside right now. It doesn't take very long to dry, but it does take a second. So I'm going to put that off there. In the meantime, I was also giving, enough time for this to dry up a little bit too. So I'm going to take this away. This is my template. I don't throw it away. Like I said, you can stamp it first and then sit here and, which works very well if you're only doing one, get it in there, line it up, make sure you're in the right spot, and then punch it. But it's just easier the way I do it if you're doing multiples particularly. This is the lasting label punch. I'll put that aside. I keep all my templates, so that's never a waste. I'm going to take the Stamparatus and get rid of that for right now. So here is our picture that we want to color. Now, yes, I am very fortunate. I have all of the whole pile of markers, alcohol markers. If you've never used alcohol markers, they're a little bit different than, say, Copics or others in the tip feel. But I used to use Copics, and I've switched to these, and it's not difficult at all. And of course, the reason I like them so much is because they match everything. They come with a light and a dark. You can't order just one. Each one has, just lay these out here. Each one of them has a thick end, a brush end, and the other side, and all of this is small enough that I'm going to be using just the tip end. So I'm just going to start with her pants, which I made soft succulent kind of as the base. People will tell you how to color this differently. I am not an artist. I'm just going to tell you how I do it. Part of the appeal to the alcohol marker is you can go over it and not damage the fibers of the paper. That's not true of all markers, so you have to kind of know which ones you're using. You also need to have a scrap piece, oh, here it is, a scrap piece of paper underneath it, because if you are coloring on it, as you can see here, it goes through. So anyway, we're starting with the soft succulent, the light, and I pretty much cover the whole thing. I'm not real careful when I color because I know I'm going to be going back. One of the nice things about alcohol markers is you don't see the circles versus the straight lines versus, you know, the wonky coloring that you don't have to be worried about. Now you'll see I've left some places that are white or vanilla behind. Then Stampin' Up! Tells you where the shading should be with the little marks. So the first thing I do is go back and mark those. I also want to mark a little bit underneath. And you can see that it's a straight line right now. But while it's still wet and alcohol doesn't dry immediately, I'm going to go back in with the lighter color and just kind of blend some of these lines in so that you don't see a line. It disappears. It's an automatic thing. And that, you know, very straight line is going to absorb into it and blend. It's something you know, can try a little bit and see how well it works out for you. But I do like, I don't usually use my regular markers. I usually use alcohol markers just because I like it more. Okay, so then for her hair, I chose to use Soft Suede Dark. All of the colors will be listed. I did not color her barrette. I again did it a little bit with leaving some whites. This is the darker one. Your hair is never a solid color. I went back to the dark crumb cake to kind of fill in some of the areas, and it just gives it texture. You can do the same thing using the light and then the dark of the same color. I wanted to bring out a little bit of highlights, if you will. Now we're gonna do her barrette in a little bit. I'm not gonna do it right now. And then I didn't really want her shirt to be yet another color. So what I did instead was, this is her, let me see. Yeah, I use the same thing as her legs. This is SU 900, which is a new set of colors. Sim came out with 100, 200, 300, all the way up to 1,000, which is 5 colors, light and dark, of skin tones. So first I'm going to go ahead and color in her arms and legs that are showing. And I didn't do any shading. I didn't really think it was necessary. Maybe I'm lazy, I don't know. I just didn't want to get into this trying to be an art piece. It's not, it's just a friend sitting there. And then because Very Vanilla is the background, I just kind of highlighted those spots again where Stampin' Up! Tells you that you probably should have a little bit of shadow. I gave it a little bit of definition in a few other little places and just left it at that. So it looks like she has a cream colored blouse on, but you're able to distinguish it between that and the background. Then the pillow, again, I always start with the light color. I usually go light, dark, light. So I fill in the majority of the color, if you will. I take the darker one and I do the accents along different spots. And you know, they talked about shadow and make the shadow light come from all of the same. Well, that's kind of what these highlights do. But sometimes I do a little extra of that. So I think you can still see up close that there's a little bit of a difference. And then I just go back with my light and blend it in just to make sure that there aren't any harsh lines. And really, there's lots of places on here that I didn't color, and I'm okay with that. So next we're gonna do the base of this, and I chose to do the light and dark. I think I did, let's see if I remember. Yeah, I wanted the dark on the rails. This one is Crumb Cake Light, yeah. I wanted to do a darker color on the rails, or not the rails, but the edge of there's probably a seat cushion, wouldn't you think? I mean, I think that she would probably want to be sitting on a little cushion, and that it's not wood. So I made those darker, and then I just used the lighter color to fill in. I don't know if it's the color of the cushion or if it's just a piece of wood. I'm not being super careful. I'm leaving some blank spaces. And then I went ahead and filled in. And again, I'm not coloring the whole thing. I'm just putting down some color. And if there's white spaces left over, I'm okay with that. Normally I'm not. I'm usually pretty OCD. A little bit, not really actually technically OCD, but I do like symmetrical things, even if it's asymmetrically symmetric. So that's all I did for color there. And then I did want to differentiate the background a little bit. So I actually used the brush on this one, and I just did, it's a very light color of Pool Party. Let me just show you if it'll show up. Just a hair of color. And again, bottom right, or bottom left rather, for the most part, not necessarily filling in the whole section. Again, I'm not an artist. This is just the way I like it. I didn't want the outdoors to be the focus, so I kind of left it somewhat blank. And then I left her coffee cup and, like I said, her barrette plain, and I used Wink Estella on that, which is a fun thing. It's clear. It's I want to say glittery, but it's not glitter because glitter falls off and is a mess. It's just it just lays down shimmer, maybe might have been a better word. And I don't know if you can see the shimmery effect or not. It doesn't do like, you know, a tremendous amount, but it does, you know, people might, as they're looking at the card, go, oh, look, it kind of shimmers. All right, so we're done coloring. And as you can see in the background, it didn't go through. This is the vanilla thick, but I wouldn't ever take a chance on that. I would always use something underneath, and we'll get rid of that as a distraction. Bring the card back for a second. For the ribbon, we have this frayed ribbon, it's called, and it's white, sort of, but it's kind of creamy too. So I went ahead and I wanted to use it. It's hard to tie bows with it, so I like to use it in other situations. But then that wasn't colorful enough, so I went ahead and put this in the middle. So first we're going to flip this over and get it straight. If you want to use measurements either on grid paper or on your grid, it's fine. I'm using our dots, our glue dots, our minis. And I'm just, here, it's easier if I do this. Let's see, so we're going to put them one there. Oh, it's not picking up. Come on, girl. Doesn't want to be on here. There's one there. Not sticking to me. All right. This is just a ribbon so that the whole roll doesn't come undone. Make sure you're putting the glue dots on the same side, because that wouldn't work out very well. Usually it picks it up much easier like that did. All right. So I want to figure out down in around this area. I'll turn it over. And just glue that down. It's, you know, it's temporary. It's going to get glued down when I glue it to the base. So just make sure it's where you want it. It's just a little bit crooked, which makes it easy to just pick up and shift again. Okay. And then we do the same thing with, this is Soft Succulent. I think in the last video, or maybe the one before, I showed you how to color ribbon so it will be whatever color you need it to be. And I thought about doing this, but I didn't do it, so I can't recommend it. But I thought, well, it's sheer in the middle, which makes this, and obviously I cut more than enough, which I wondered what would happen if I colored it in. It's pretty enough all by itself, so it doesn't need it, but it's something I might try a little bit later. All right, so we've put the color back there on the top of, and this thick ribbon, oh, I didn't go all the way down to the end is why. This thicker ribbon, you know, would not stay on with just a couple of glue dots. It definitely needs more than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our crumb cake out and get our glue. And I want this to start setting up, if you will, or, you know, because it's got thickness to it and multiple levels of layers because of this. Okay. Because we're on screen, I gotta have all these problems. See, in real life, it happens. Okay, so then apparently I left my glue out when I wasn't playing nice. So all you do is stick a pin in it, wiggle it around, and I'll clean that pin up later. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Well, I'm lying. Oops. All right. So obviously, when you get a big glue glob like that, here's a tip. Take a piece of scrap paper and just kind of spread it out. You don't have to waste it. I mean, but don't leave a big glob like that for a couple of reasons. Now, I picked up the glob that was actually there. But you just, you know, if you press that down, it's going to squeak out in all kinds of places you didn't want it. So it's always a good idea to get rid of it with that extra piece of paper. Now, remember, this is only like 1/8 of an inch on all sides. Do 3 sides, this side, this side, and this side, and that means this side will be perfect. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it on here. Now my glue will work much better. See, I told you. This one has what I call a normal layer as far as it's a 1/4 of an inch. Bigger all the way around. All right, so now the thing I do is, this is a lot of layers. This is multiple different things. I put that down on it so that it can sit a minute and have a little pressure. I'm also going to clean off my bottle and store it properly with the cap on. You can leave it out for a while, but I probably left it out longer than a while. All right, so now we've stamped our sentiments. Let's take these sentiments. And again, it was like, well, it's going to be kind of boring on there. Not boring, but difficult to see. So I had a choice. I could use the soft succulent around it. And I could use either the alcohol marker or our Stampin' Write markers. Now, I'm going to show you the difference. I already did the alcohol marker there. I am not coloring that in and making a perfect line. What I was doing was going just along the edge. Now, if you don't want it to bleed in, I'm just going to show you this real quick. If you don't want it to bleed down into it, you can just do this, and then when you put it up against the color, you can see it. There is a border. It's very subtle, but it makes a difference when you do it. If you want it to be okay to have it bleed a little bit like this, then go ahead and use the alcohol marker, which is what I did. And that basically for me, I'm okay with it being that way. But again, all you're doing is following the edge, and it'll bleed until it wants to stop bleeding, which isn't very much, but it's obviously more than the other method with just using the marker. Almost done. All right, and it might continue to feather, if you will, for, I don't know, 10 seconds maybe, until the alcohol actually dries. So again, to see the difference, yeah, this is with, let me pick it up so it's closer. This is with the marker along the edge. This is with the alcohol marker, and that's the difference. And I wanted it to have more rather than less. So then we're going to put this on with some dimensionals, and you have to remember you've got ribbon here, so I'm putting them to the outer side. And then I'm going to also put them a little bit on this outer side. Take all these off. I find these things everywhere. I find them in my basement, which is 2 stories from here. They stick on my socks and they blow in the wind, and they just multiply. They're like bunnies. I think I took them all off. Yep. All right, so this is backwards. And then we're just going to lay it down. And there you have it. Now, I also wanted this sentiment on the inside. And so I'm going to do a rare and hope it comes out well. If it doesn't, then another panel's going on the inside. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. It's not that I'm afraid to stamp. I stamp. It just seems like, I don't know, especially with words and stuff, I tend to, sorry, my head's in the way. Let me see if I can see enough to make it straight. And when you stamp, when you press it down, just hold it for a second and allow the, there you go, good job. Allow the paper to absorb the ink off of your stamp, and that gives it a nice quality. And I'm going to leave that open just for a moment, but there you have it. Friendship refreshes the soul with a little bit of coloring. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. I post once a week on Wednesdays. Again, you can go to my website, which is stampmesilly.com if you're on YouTube, or email me at jandufour@yahoo.com if you don't have a demonstrator and would like a free catalog. I'd be happy to send you one. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody. Bye.